have to. Let's see it.
And now going on to the other game real quickly, we got the Chiefs versus Bengals. Like I said, this is like the seventh rematch all time in the playoff history. It's the Chiefs' number one scoring offense versus the Bengals' fifth points allowed with 322 for the season. Patrick Mahomes, believe it or not, he is 0-3 versus Joe Burrow right there against the Bengals. Pivotal game late in the season. I believe it was in week 17 of the 2021 season where they lost in Kansas City. Did to them again in the AFC Championship game, overcoming an 18-point deficit. Then once again, this past season right now in Cincinnati, as for the Bengals, written by Ben Baby of ESPN, one thing that may be concerning for the Bengals is their O-line right now. Talking about guards, right guard Alex Kappa, left ankle, left tackle Jonah Williams, dislocated kneecap. Now, Joe Burrow, he has been sacked 10 times less than he was last season, which was his career high, 51. I gotta believe this is gotta be like one of the keys right here. I mean, a lot of people are focusing on Mahomes' mobility. He's been a full participant today in practice, but I would believe right now, when you look at it, I gotta believe once again, if the Chiefs defense can find a way to get the Burrow, sack them, they're the number one pass rush in the league. I gotta believe that could be a sign for trouble for Burrow and the Bengals. They're not careful. I mean, they're making progress, but I gotta believe aside from that, that's gotta be one of their aces in the deck outside Mahomes in the offense.
Yeah, I do think that the Bengals line is fine. I mean, they are. I mean, Adeniji was awesome on this past weekend. I will say that Karras would be the guy I'm worried about because you kept reading reports from Buffalo during Sunday's game that he was laboring on the sidelines, did not look good coming out of the tunnel before the game at halftime, whatever. He is really the glue of that offensive line. And I think if Karras gets, further injured or is compromised further on Sunday, I think that would be the issue because then the Chiefs can blitz right up the middle. And I think that's really going to be the biggest struggle. And I think when you have seen Burrow get sacked, when it's not from his blind side, it's straight up the middle on blitzes. So I think that's the biggest concern. But Jackson Carman played really well this past weekend. I know Buffalo's line Buffalo's D line isn't the steel curtain, reincarnated, but it's still a solid, formidable defensive front. And, obviously the Bengals are playing with backups, but only really by name. I mean, these are good. I mean, Jackson Carman was a second round pick a year ago, right? And that was his first start this past weekend at left tackle and looked good. They're better in run support, but and I think is one of the things the Bengals that I think they're going to do. They're going to try to enforce their will. And really, when I looked at all four teams left in the playoffs, you look at which teams have the best rushing attacks. It's either Philadelphia or it's Cincinnati. Once again, Miles Sanders and their stable of running backs, and then Cincinnati with Pirine, with Joe Mixon. They don't really use Chris Evans a lot, but as we've seen against Kansas City in Week 13, he can be a good player, particularly as a receiver. So I like the Bengals in this game, mostly because of Patrick Mahomes. Now, I will say this, if the officials throw flags early and they want this game to be, less physical, which usually in championship games, they let them play more, the Bengals could be in trouble. If the officials kind of get involved, I could see things going against Cincinnati. But if they let them play, I like the Bengals in this game. I mean, they're a better team. I think that they have, obviously the Niners have the best defense of all the teams left, but I think the Bengals have the second best defense. I mean, there's, of the 40 teams left, I think the Chiefs have the weakest defense. Philly, as you said, 70 sacks, the Niners number one overall defense. The Bengals have really good players at every level of the defense. They force a lot of turnovers. And I just think the Bengals have too many weapons. T. Higgins, as long as they stay healthy, right? If Higgins gets hurt or Boyd or Hayden Hurst, that can kind of throw off the dynamic of the receiving core. But the way Burrow's been playing, especially the way he looked last week, I don't see the Chiefs slowing him down unless weather becomes a factor or if freak things happen like pick sixes or special team scores. If it's a straight up kind of game, I think Cincinnati's going to win.
I think I'm going to take the Chiefs only because 3 in a row right there. They had to snap something out. I probably trust Andy Reid's coaching a little bit more than Zach Taylor. They are a hot team right now.
But Reid does have that penchant of of losing home games, doesn't he? Playoff games. I mean, that's kind of Reed's as great as a coach as Andy Reid is. He loses at Pittsburgh in 2016, right? He loses a lot of these kind of games.
He loses a lot of these kind of games, but there's a reason why he's also like in the top 5 is like all-time coaching like wins leaders too. And he worked with multiple quarterbacks before, had a very blessed resume with Don McNabb, Patrick Mahomes, and many others. But in the playoffs right now, who would you say was the most disappointing if you had to choose between these two teams? And who's your most surprising team out of the playoffs? Who would you choose between the Bills and the Cowboys? Cowboys seem to do dirty laundry on Dak Prescott on their Twitter account. I don't know if you got a chance to see the tweet.
My old coworker did that.
Yeah.
It's okay. I mean, it happens. I mean, I think the Bills by far are the more disappointing team. I mean, not that they lost to Cincinnati, because that's a coin flip, but to me, how they looked against Miami and how they looked against Cincinnati. Again, you lose to Cincinnati, that's not really, it is what it is. You lost the defending AFC champions, but the way they looked, and to me, and I don't want to make excuses, but I do think that what happened to DeMar, and it's so great that he's healthy and relatively speaking, that he recovered and is still recovering. But I think they were emotionally tapped. I think that was a team that was emotionally just, and it, in a weird way, it kind of reminded me of the 17 Steelers a little bit with Shazier, and that team emotionally, I think, was tapped by the time the playoffs got there. And I think Jacksonville came in and beat a tired Steelers team, even though Pittsburgh had a bye week. I think that they were tapped. I think that Allen may have been injured more than we think too, or wasn't feeling great. I mean, he didn't really want to run that much. Didn't look like on Sunday. I think that the Bills need to retool their offense. They need to focus more on running the ball. I don't think they had a good running game. I think similar to Baltimore, they rely way too much on the quarterback to do too much. And I think that's, again, is a testament to the Bengals that yes, Joe Burrow is kind of the catalyst for the offense, but they have a very good running game that they also lean on, and I think that makes them very hard to play against.
So just to sum up, I'm going to go Super Bowl rematch for 54. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to go Niners versus Chiefs in this one. And I'm thinking you got the Bengals. You can just say right there, if you had to break a tie right now, what you said earlier with the Eagles-Niners, who will be the Bengals opponent?
I'm taking the Eagles. I think just because there's a few things, but I think the number one thing is the lack of health with McCaffrey and Debo. I think that's the biggest thing that concerns me. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, again, now I will say this, I think the Niners are going to make it hard. I don't know if either team's going to score 20 points. I think it's going to be a rarely low scoring game. But again, I think, Charles, a lot of times when you look at these games, I honestly look at the quarterback a lot. And if it's mostly equal, and when you get to this far into the season with 4 teams left, it's pretty equal all across the board. I think that Burrow against an injured Mahomes, I give the nod to the Bengals. And then you look at the Eagles-Niners. I mean, Brock Purdy, I think is tapped. I just don't think that I don't see Brock Purdy going to Philadelphia with a Super Bowl trip on the line and winning that game. So I like the Eagles. Now, I could also see Eagles-Chiefs, which you would get a bunch of Andy Reid for 2 weeks, right? You'll get that narrative, but I think it'll be the Bengals, and I think it'll be the Eagles.
Thank you for watching the Mass Steel podcast with your host, Charles Prodigy Richey, here on YouTube. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And for all the latest Mass Steel podcast episodes, feel free to download them on Mixcloud, Anchor.fm, and SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts.
He's got it! That's a winner!